One of the most famous stories ever told is David versus Goliath. I don't need to recap the story. You know David versus Goliath because it's one of the most famous stories ever told. The SEC would like you to believe that they are the Goliath of the college football world, that they are unquestionable, unchallengeable, and absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest dog on the block. The problem with that is they're not acting that way because Goliath doesn't have to tell you how great Goliath is. Goliath doesn't have to show you stats to prove how great Goliath is. Goliath just knows, hey, I'm the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And that's all I have to say. When you are Goliath, you don't have to talk. You don't have to talk up a big game. You don't have to hype up yourself. You're just there, and everybody else runs in fear. Everybody else goes, holy crap, I don't want to deal with Goliath. I don't want to have to mess with Goliath. I would rather try to shove a cactus up a bobcat's butt in a phone booth than have to battle Goliath. Goliath doesn't tell you, I'm Goliath, I'm the greatest ever, and the Saragrin ratings prove that I'm the greatest ever. It's preposterous. The SEC is angling for, or I guess was, it depends on who you believe, basically a special treatment for the college football playoff, along with the Big Ten. Now, the Big Ten hasn't been as vocal about their want for a certain setup, but the SEC went on a full-on propaganda parade last week to talk about why they deserve 4 guaranteed spots to the college football playoff every year. And I think that's ridiculous. I don't know what the best format is going forward, but I do believe that if we're going to make conference championship games and conference championship games matter, you can't have 4 guaranteed spots. I will die on the hill that the argument that the 4th best team in the Big Ten or SEC is automatically better than the 3rd best team in the Big 12 or ACC because we have Big Ten or SEC on our left shoulder is stupid. It's a dumb argument, and I think it's bad for the sport as a whole. And I think that Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, and Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, need to look out for the sport as a whole as much as they need to look out for the member schools in their conference, wholly recognizing that their jobs are to only look out for the schools in their conferences. But if you're the unquestioned leader, if you are without a shadow of a doubt, which is what the SEC wants you to believe, that top to bottom, they are the best football conference year in, year out, and there are no metrics that should suggest otherwise, you don't have to tell people that. You don't have to say, well, actually, in spite of the on-field results, outside of when we play the game between these white lines, we're viewed as the best, and therefore we should be treated as such. I think that's a dumb argument to make. I also think you look incredibly weak and desperate when you're trying to make that argument. If you are the unquestioned leader, your play on the field should be that determining factor. Otherwise, either 1, you're not the top dog, or 2, you're lying. That's pretty much the options. Because if your play on the field doesn't show without a shadow of a doubt that you are the best teams, the best conference in college football, I think that's a pretty dumb argument to make. There is nothing wrong with being one of the 2 best conferences, one of the 3 best conferences, or our top 5 teams are the best top 5 teams as a whole. But the argument that Mississippi State and Vanderbilt are just as are head and shoulders above the worst two teams in every other conference is bullshit. Because those aren't the best. The argument of we have the best 8 and 9 loss teams in America. Congratulations. That's awesome. The SEC is going through an identity crisis because the last 2 seasons, they have not won the national championship. This past season, they didn't get close to the national championship. Their best team, who I think Texas was the best team in the SEC, they didn't match up well against Georgia. That's a bad thing for them. But I spent all season saying I think Texas is the best team in the SEC. They put up a really good fight against Ohio State. Georgia didn't put up much of a fight, the SEC champion, against Notre Dame. I know they're without their quarterback, but if you're going to hang your hat on Carson Beck being your savior, you're going to be in a world of hurt anyway. But the SEC was not the dominant team everybody, or not the dominant conference everybody expected them to be in 2024, just like they were not the dominant team conference everybody expected them to be in 2023. And that's okay. But the SEC, where it just means more, is having problems rectifying and confronting the fact that you are not the unquestioned leader in the clubhouse any longer. I think that's better for the sport overall because I don't think that regionality, where college football only matters in the Southeast and the Midwest, is a great thing overall. But sometimes you just got to deal with your loss and deal with it. The idea that 2024 Alabama was going to be the team that launched 1,000 ships to change the way the college football playoff is constructed because, by God, we're just better than everybody else, is preposterous. I'm a big believer in don't tell me who you lost to as your college football playoff resume, because I think damn near anybody can lose to damn near anybody on any given Saturday. Tell me who you beat, because that's going to matter to me a lot more than who you lost to be frank. And I can look past a loss or two of, you weren't perfect. Shit happens. Alabama lost 4 times during the 2024 season. They lost to a bad Michigan team in a bowl game. And that bad Michigan team beat the national champion, but I think the national champions beat themselves as much as Michigan beat them. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. Alabama got their ass stomped by Oklahoma. They lost a tight one at Tennessee. Alabama's 9-3. And the argument over the course of the last 2 weeks or so has been, well, I'd like to see what somebody else would have done with Alabama's schedule. Probably not lost to Oklahoma. Probably not lost to Vanderbilt is the reality of the situation. Do a lot of teams go 9-3 against Alabama's schedule? Probably. But those losses are to LSU, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia. Not to Vanderbilt. Not to Oklahoma. The only people... Alabama can only blame itself for not making the college football playoff in 2024. In an expanded college football playoff, are you then going to knock the team, SMU, who lost in its conference championship game for being successful? It's kind of the same argument that I always have when people will tell you that Michael Jordan is better than LeBron James because Michael Jordan went 6-0 in the finals and LeBron James lost championship series. So you're telling me that all of the years that Michael Jordan didn't get to the NBA finals, it was better to lose in the Eastern Conference finals, better to lose in the second round than it was to make the NBA finals and lose. That's a stupid argument. And it's the same thing for Alabama. Like the argument that they didn't get in the playoff and they should have because SMU played a worse schedule and lost in their conference championship game. You cannot punish success. That is almost always universally a bad idea. So with that in mind, the argument then moves to, Well, yeah, now all anybody cares about is the smallest number of losses in a win-loss column. That's all that matters. Yeah, that's all that's ever mattered. And the fact that you're just coming around to that is not like that's a you problem. Alabama's non-conference football games in 2024 were Mercer, Wisconsin, USF, and Western Kentucky. You're not playing Myrtle. Well, we're going to have to reevaluate future scheduling options if that's what it's going to be. If we're going to have to worry only about the smallest number of losses, yeah, that's what you should think, you idiots. That's what you should already be prioritizing. It's just such a dumb argument from so many different levels. Was Alabama one of the 12 best teams in college football in 2024? My answer to that would be no. And if your answer to that is yes, then you think college football sucked in 2024 if Alabama is one of the best 12 teams. And thus, the SEC has been so used to preferential treatment for so long just because, well, we got a little circle right here that says SEC. No, that doesn't work anymore. You have lost that perch. You can absolutely unequivocally gain it back. If in 2025, Texas A&M is awesome, Georgia is awesome, Texas is awesome, Alabama is awesome, LSU is awesome, Auburn is pretty good, Arkansas sucks significantly less than people think they're going to. You can earn that title back. You can earn that benefit of the doubt back. If Ole Miss is great, sure, you can get that status back, but you've lost it because you've deserved to lose it, because you haven't been the unquestioned 10,000-pound gorilla on the block. And the idea that they can't figure out, nobody in that conference can go, well, I know that Ole Miss lost to Florida when they controlled their own destiny and lost at home to Kentucky, who went 4-8 and couldn't throw the goddamn ball farther than 3 yards down the field, but they should have been in the college football playoff. Do you hear yourself? The college football playoff does not need drastic changes to the selection committee just because you didn't get your way. And for Greg Sankey to be like, well, you know, I don't think a committee is the right way to select who should and shouldn't play for a tournament, should play for a championship. Why is it okay for basketball, volleyball, baseball, soccer, softball, literally every other team sport that has a tournament to decide a champion? Do you know how they decide who makes the field? It's a committee. So unless you're angling for, and I think that the SEC probably would welcome a return to the BCS formula, because the BCS formula is going to inherently help the SEC because it's based on perception. It's based on human perception and the information that humans put into the computer. And all of the metrics the SEC show is, well, we finished best in the AP top 25. Whoop the ass do. Congratulations. You know what matters? What happens on the field. And the more that you angle for why what happens on the field shouldn't matter as much as the perception of how great we are off of it, you've lost the plot. So the SEC looks weak as hell when you go on this propaganda tour of, by all of these different metrics, we're the biggest and baddest on the block. If you're the biggest and baddest on the block, let your football do the talking for you and not your nerds in your computer labs crunching numbers, asking ChatGPT how to figure out why we're better than the ACC and the Big 12. That is not a strategy employed by Goliath. And if the SEC wants to be viewed as Goliath, it has to start by kicking ass on the football field rather than telling everybody else why they should have been kicking ass on the football field but weren't. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Maybe my blood pressure will drop back down to normal levels, but it's still going to be pretty high. If you appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you get all the great college football content we're pumping out. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Huddle.